This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now. I'm on my way now.
Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. If you happen to be new around here, my name is Trevor and this is Anna. We are the Delightful Travelers. Hit the subscribe button and the like button to follow along on our now Japanese adventures.
We've actually just wrapped up our amazing time in Japan, but we did find that there were a lot of things that we didn't really know in advance. So we decided to make a video all about those things. So these are gonna be the 10 things that you need to know before coming to Japan.
Also, at the very end of this video, we're going to be announcing where we're going next. It's another country, and we can't wait to tell you, so stick around till the end.
It's also not Asia.
Number one, we're going to start with trains and taxis. Now, these are in no particular order. We just thought we'd start here because it's probably what you're going to encounter first. It might be one of the first things that happens when you get to Japan. Which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's just say that we arrived in Osaka. If you were coming in through Tokyo, maybe it's different, but we didn't take a train or public transit or a taxi for that matter from Tokyo, or from the airport into Tokyo. We were in Osaka.
Now, Osaka, I know maybe it's not where most of the tourists land for the very first time, but we had some challenges at that airport. I mean, first you get out, and we actually thought it would be a little easier to navigate. We don't normally travel around the world expecting to see English signs or anything like that, but this time there was almost none.
Yes.
And that aside, it was just really hard to figure out how to get a ticket to get on the metro system to get into the city.
Yes, and just so you guys know, we did do our research. We always look up how to get from the airport to the city whenever we're going to a new spot. And people made it sound like it's so easy. They did say taxis are very, very expensive getting from the Osaka International Airport. I forget the name of it, but it's quite a ways into the city itself.
It was over $100, I think, for a taxi. So here's the thing about what we learned really quick when we got to that airport trying to figure out the train system is you actually kind of need to know the names of the trains before you go. And what I mean by that is like one of them is called like the JR line. And when we got there, we were just kind of looking for like the downtown line or something like that, which is what most airports do. So you have to know who the brands are.
Yeah, so we finally got to this area that was where you get all your tickets, and there were just probably 10 different lineups, and they were huge lineups, and there was nobody to ask. So if there was a desk somewhere and you could say like, which lineup do I need to be in, that would be really, really helpful, but there was nobody around that worked there. It was just all these massive lineups. And then there were signs saying like 30 minutes into Osaka, 25 minutes into, but we had no idea like which lineup to get into. It was very confusing.
It was confusing, but we did figure it out, and the reason we're making this video is to let you know if you get there, when you get there for the very first time, just make sure you look up the brands of the trains. You'll get a lot further than we did if you do that.
And I think we ended up with the JR.
We did go on JR.
Which is, I think, the main train company. So obviously there are trains all over Japan. So we were only just talked from getting the airport to the city. There's also getting around the city, and there's also getting from one city to another. So we could literally make a whole video on trains, I'm sure. One thing we found was our first time using the actual like subway system in Osaka, we got tickets. We did not have a JR rail pass, which a lot of people get in advance. Also something someone could probably make a full video on. We didn't do it for various reasons. One is that you have to get them, I think, shipped to you in advance, so you have to be planning very far in advance and be at home, which we're not. And you also, I think they're relatively expensive, so you should be doing a few train trips. You'd have to do some research in order to figure out if you should get one or not, but we opted not to. But that also gets you around the subway system. So we thought at first we would just use tickets. It was very confusing.
The reason for that was we didn't think we'd use the trains too much, but boy, were we wrong because the taxis are priced too high.
Yeah, but moral of the story, this is what you need to know. Get the
Ikoka card.
Ikoka card. That's the one in Osaka, and there's a different one that is, I think it's called like Suica or something like that in Tokyo. You can use them in both cities, but you buy whatever city you're starting off.
I think also you can even use that in Kyoto as well.
Yeah, so they're just like tap on, tap off, and then you can top them up at any like of the convenience stores, and they're really easy.
Okay, so we should talk about taxis. That will be much faster. We'll start to go through these quicker, I promise. So taxis are a big one. The reason that we opted not to take them so much is flat out, it's just flat out expensive.
So expensive. So that's basically the moral of the story with taxis. They're extremely expensive, so you're gonna want to learn how to use that subway system.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Don't take a taxi. Sorry, taxi drivers from Japan, but I wouldn't do it if I were you guys. Only take the metro system.
Moving on to number 2, let's talk about language.
So the language, we thought going in that we would find just a little bit more English. And for everyone that's new watching, I want you to know that we travel quite often and we never expect to hear English when we go to we've been in lots of countries that we rarely hear it, but for some reason we thought because it is Japan and a lot of, let's say, Westerners, they're going there for the very first time, we thought there'd be a little more English, to be honest.
And I think as a Westerner, you're very used to like Japanese culture, so it just seems like it's such a connected thing that we assumed that there would be a fair bit of English there just because they get so many Western tourists.
Yeah, tons of Western tourists. Like a lot of people go there for the very first time. Well, flash forward to when we got there, and yeah, not much English, and that was just a little bit surprising. Now we welcome that because it pushes us outside our boundaries to maybe attempt to learn some Japanese.
Use Google Translate when you have to.
Yeah.
It works. You always figure it out, but it does take a few days to kind of get adjusted to that and realize that maybe your expectations aren't quite what you thought.
The reason we bring it up is a lot of you guys that watch us from week to week ask us about English all the time.
Literally every country we go to, people always end up asking, how is the English there? Can I get by with English?
Yeah. So this is one where you'll get by, but just know there's going to be challenges. There's lots of menus that you're going to come across that are not in English at all. You can use your camera app on Google Translate and all that stuff. Like we said, it works sometimes. It doesn't always get all the characters correct, but you will get by. Japanese people are so nice. They want to help you. It ends up being kind of a fun interaction.
It is, yeah. People are so nice. Even when we're having issues in subways and people couldn't speak English to help us out, they would still like walk us around and try to explain everything to us. They were so helpful. So before we get to the next item on the list, we want to say a huge thank you to Squarespace, who is back again to sponsor this week's video.
You guys heard us talk about Squarespace a lot now, and that's because it's a huge part of our day-to-day lives. Not only have we used it to build our own delightfultravelers.com website, we also use it to build our clients' websites as well.
Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform that helps you to stand out and succeed online. Get started by choosing one of their professional website templates with designs for every style that can easily be customized. And with Fluid Engine, you can lay out your website pages exactly the way you want them and customize every design detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile.
You can even accept appointments on your Squarespace site. You can offer online or in-person private sessions, workshops, and group classes. Are you ready to start your own Squarespace website? Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/delightfultravelers to get 10% off your own website or domain.
And as always, a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting creators like us.
All right, moving on now to number 3, restaurants.
We basically just touched on this, but one thing to be aware of is that a lot of places, a lot of restaurants, will not have English menus. And if they do, sometimes you have to find them in person. So we love to research restaurants before we go, like try to plan out possibilities of where we want to eat. And oftentimes you just cannot find an English menu online. So you just kind of have to guess. Sometimes, especially if it's in a PDF version or something online, you can't translate it.
Yeah, we're already noticing too, but from the comments from a lot of the Japanese viewers, that sometimes the best restaurants aren't even listed like on Google Maps. So just know that, again, it's very different than what we're used to, but it makes it a lot of fun when you find these kind of holes in the wall. We found a few.
Yeah, it can be a little challenging though when you are a picky eater or someone that doesn't eat all the things and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So that's where it gets probably a little challenging. If you're someone that just likes to try and eat everything, you're good to go.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend, if you are in Japan, I think you're probably there, well, one of the reasons you're there is to eat, and that's a perfect country to be adventurous in, if that's your thing.
Yeah, another thing we noticed at some of the restaurants is that they do have rules of like what, that like each person has to have one meal, so they can be weird about sharing. Certain places, not every place, but we have come across a few places where we were kind of, let's call it peckish. We weren't starving to eat, and we just wanted something small, and we tried to order one meal, and they were like, no, you can't do it. And we were like, what? That's so strange. We're trying to spend money, and you're saying no. So yeah, just be aware, different challenges. You're going to hit those in Japan for sure, but it's definitely worth it. Moving on to number 4, ticket machines. Now you might be like, what is a ticket machine? This is something we were certainly not used to. Now we knew going in we were going to encounter these for sure, but
first of all, what is a ticket machine?
Well, a lot of restaurants in Tokyo and Osaka as well, you, instead of going in and ordering, like getting a table, ordering, you actually order in advance at a ticket machine. How odd is that?
Which is usually right outside the restaurant, and you just go up and it's kind of like a vending machine.
Yeah.
You get your order. I have no idea on the inside how they're kind of coordinating all that.
Yeah, when you finally get your seat, you pass them the ticket and then they make you whatever is on there. It's a cool concept. It's really for busier restaurants. A lot of times ramen restaurants will do that.
Yeah.
Usually we found the machines were in English, and if they weren't, there was usually someone there to help.
Yeah, someone was there to help in that case. It makes sense if they're trying to be efficient. Remember, if we're talking about Tokyo for a second, even Osaka, I mean, they're some of the biggest cities in the world, right? So you have a lot of people going in and out of restaurants.
And you're also paying at those machines. I don't know if you mentioned that.
You are paying at the machines too. So it's a whole different experience, but again, highly recommended.
It's so much fun.
It's so much fun to go to Japan and just to eat alone. I mean, I'd go back just to eat.
And number 5, toilets. I can't believe I'm actually adding this as an item in a video of things to know before you go somewhere, but toilets in a good way.
I know.
Are a thing to know about going to Japan.
Whoever thought we'd be fascinated with toilets in Japan, but boy, let me tell you, we are. Now, first of all, a lot of you probably know about toilets in Japan, and it's not just Japan. I think.
But if you don't know, you are in for a treat.
We've come across them in South Korea as well, but in Japan, it's just a whole other level. Okay, so again, coming at it from the Westerner here, anyone that's watching this from, let's say, North America, parts of Europe, you're used to just a regular old toilet. It does nothing fancy. You have your toilet paper and, you do your business. Over in Japan, it's a little bit different. First of all, some of the places that you go into, and some of these are in public spaces, but let's say you're in your hotel or something like that, you open the door to the bathroom and the toilet seat just magically opens.
Yeah, or the lid, I guess.
The lid. The lid opens and it's ready for you to take your throne. After that, when you're done doing your business, there's a whole bunch of different options.
You missed a good part.
Which one?
Was that sometimes, or oftentimes, the toilet seat is actually heated. That's maybe my favorite part.
Yeah, it sounds so luxury, doesn't it?
It is luxury. But yeah, as Trevor said, when you're done your business, it's also usually there's like a panel on the side of the wall that's beside you, and it'll have like all these buttons.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're hard to figure out. I had to use my translate button or translate on my phone a few times to figure out how to flush.
But it's kind of has everything built in. So everything from different washers when you're finished up, then it'll
different pressures.
Yeah, different pressures. Sprays will come at you from different angles, and it will just take care of everything. And there's also an air dryer in it.
And an air dryer at the very end, you blow dry basically. And also in public, some of the public like fancier malls and maybe some restaurants as well, they have also a button that creates noise. So it makes like either a water sound or some music just to make it, if you're having trouble.
If you have stage fright,
or there's a lot of people around and you don't want them to hear what you're doing, you just turn it on.
It's wild, like a little music button while you're sitting on the throne.
It's amazing. Next up, prices. So in general, we found Japan to be relatively expensive. Nothing crazy, but like it's definitely on the expensive side.
It is, and a few commenters on previous videos already in the Japan series said it is all relative, and it is. So in our case, we were coming from Southeast Asia, moving up to kind of Northern Asia or Japan and Korea, and it was a bit of sticker shock, let's just say.
If we were coming from Canada, it probably wouldn't have been as much of a sticker shock as it was for us. But we had just spent months in Southeast Asia where we were spending practically nothing.
Yeah, so I imagine most people that go over to Japan are going for maybe like a vacation, not exactly doing what we're doing. We travel full time. If you're going for a vacation and coming back, I mean, if you're just comparing it as if you would go to, say, the United States from Canada and then go back to Canada, it's the same kind of prices.
So yeah, if you've been watching our series along so far, you probably noticed we put up prices when we eat anything, when we do a lot of things. There's probably some stuff that you were like, oh, that's not too bad. And then there were probably some other things we were like, whoa, that's really expensive.
So like in general, street food is usually quite affordable. Ramen was pretty good.
Yeah,
it's like
even sushi, not too bad either.
And there's lots of other places for sure. A lot of people told us we didn't go to some of the right places, around.
And we were in expensive neighborhoods.
We stayed in, from what we gather now after all the comments, in expensive neighborhoods. So just know that you're going to be fine if that's where you're coming from, like let's say the Western world. But if you're used to the Thailand prices and Philippines and things like that, it's going to be a bit of sticker shock.
Yeah, and something also to be aware of is that sometimes taxes are not included in the price. So coming from Canada, that seems totally normal to you, but from other places like in Europe, taxes are always included in the price, so you might be surprised when you go up to pay for something.
Next up on the list is cash. Now this one surprised us a little bit. I think like most of us, well anyway, us for sure, we're used to traveling around or just not having much cash on us in general. We use credit cards a lot and we're just kind of used to that, but in Japan, you're going to need to have cash on you at all times.
Yeah, and it's not that nowhere takes credit cards, because there certainly are places that do, but a lot of places that don't. Especially the like really popular restaurants like ramen restaurants, the sushi restaurants, things that we talked about where you go use a machine often, you need cash.
Yeah, they were mostly cash, weren't they?
Yeah,
like the ticket
mostly.
machines, lots of time were cash. The kind of hole in the walls we found, like some of the ramen spots, all cash. But if you were going into stores, like, all the 7-Elevens, convenience stores, you can use credit cards. But we did find ourselves needing cash a little more than we thought we would. I mean, here we are in Japan. It's like a futuristic city, Tokyo,
Yeah,
Osaka.
we thought they would be everywhere. It would take some sort of very, very advanced credit card system.
No, they didn't. But now you guys know, bring cash, or we'll just get cash out, get the yen when you go to Japan.
Number 8, hotel rooms. So they are pretty small, quite compact. Just be prepared for that. They're probably the smallest hotel rooms we've ever been in, and that counts New York City, which has very small rooms.
Very, very small hotel rooms. Now, we knew this part going over there, but at the same time, when you go into your hotel room and it's not even like a queen size bed and you just have a tiny bit of space next to it to walk around, it is a little bit surprising.
Yeah, and you're spending also a lot of money for that. It's not like it's $50 a night for this tiny little room.
No.
Often it's $150, $200, $250 for these small little spaces.
Now, if you have the budget, of course, you can pay a whole lot more than that and probably get something like 4 or 5 times the size of it. But again, back to using Tokyo as the example here. Largest city in the world, so many people, millions and millions and millions of people. It makes sense to have small rooms to fit everybody in.
That's right. Number 9, lineups. Be prepared to get in lines.
Yeah, the lineups in Japan. Okay, so this is kind of a weird one because from what we gather and what we hear now after putting out some of these videos, and we knew a little bit going in that lineups in Japan to get into restaurants are kind of part of the culture.
It is, yeah.
And that's just to us, kind of odd. It's the first time we've come across that.
I think Korea was the similar.
Korea had it. Korea had it a little bit too. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't know anyone that likes a line and likes just waiting around. So to us, we were kind of a little bit like, what's going on with these lineups?
So just be prepared for that, especially at the really, really popular restaurants, the well-known ramen restaurants. It's just part of the process to go wait in line. Some places you actually literally wait in line. Other places will give you a number or a time that you come back.
Yeah, that was rare though. I feel like they were my favorite places when they would tell us a time to come back. But there's a few times we lined up for at least 30 or 40 minutes just to get into a place. And you might say well, maybe you just went to a popular place. And it's like, nope, a lot of the places were the same. So it was a little bit odd for us, something we're not used to. That was definitely one of my least favorite things because we were just kind of standing around in a lineup. And,
but some people might enjoy that.
Some people might enjoy that. I did notice, with the locals that were there, a lot of people, sometimes there's groups of 4, everyone's just hanging around. Maybe it's a bit of a scene thing to get seen in a line. I don't know if the Japanese are watching. Any Japanese viewers, let us know. But lineups are a thing in Japan, guys. All right, number 10, convenience stores and vending machines. The last one on the list. This one's a fun one.
It is a fun one. Let's start with vending machines. They are literally everywhere and they sell everything.
Yeah, that was honestly, it's one of our favorite things about being in Japan. You just come across these vending machines everywhere you go. And there's sometimes hot drinks you can get out of them. I'm sure there's food at times.
Yeah, there's alcoholic drinks, I'm pretty sure. There's literally everything.
It's so much fun. And that we knew going into Japan. We knew vending machines are going to be a big part of our day-to-day life there. And yeah, honestly, I just feel like it's on every block. It's every 50 feet.
And usually
There's
there's
a
a bunch of them at once. There's not just
All
one,
the
there's
time.
like 10 of them.
So it's a lot of fun to use them, of course. We try to as much as we possibly could. And if you're going to Japan, and maybe you are if you're watching this video, it's probably why you're watching, you should definitely take advantage of the vending machines. But that's not all that's awesome.
Their convenience stores are the best. Leave a comment below if you think a country has better convenience stores than Japan, because I would love to know. So basically there is 7-Eleven, Lawson's, and Family Mart. They're all over the place and they have everything you need.
Where we're from in Canada, the grocery stores are very large, and somehow it just feels like we take that large store and just kind of shrink them down all into these amazing convenience stores.
And it's not like Japan doesn't have large grocery or supermarkets, grocery stores as well, but they just do convenience stores so well that you don't really need to go to the big supermarket.
They take all the essential things that you would need like in your place and just fit them in there. And not just that, if you need a lunch on the go,
Yeah, so
there's
much good stuff.
many
You could
options.
eat out of a convenience store for days and probably not get bored.
You can get your alcohol there. You get your sake or your whiskey. That's a very, very
You can
popular.
top up
items.
your iCoca card. You can
Yeah.
buy lunch there, get ramen,
You
get
can even
sushi,
use
get
your
everything.
iCoca card. So that iCoca card was what we talked about earlier in the video about transportation, getting around on the metro systems. You can actually use that card to purchase things within the convenience stores. So
They're very convenient.
they're the most convenient convenience stores we've ever come across.
So hopefully this video helps you prepare a little bit for your upcoming trip, presuming that you have one to Japan, or at least you know a little bit more about it.
So this is obviously a very different video than we normally make. Usually we're running around the streets of a city or a town or in a village in a country by country, depending, of course. So we wanted to make this video to really help you guys out that are watching and make your experience that much better when you get to Japan.
Yeah, and I just want to say, sometimes we find that things start off in certain countries really, really challenging. You feel frustrated for the first few days or a lot of culture shock. But typically we find when that happens, in the end, it ends up being the places that we love the most. In Japan, definitely that applies. We loved it.
Yeah, it was worth it. We had a few, I won't call it rough days, the wrong word, but challenging
Frustrating
day.
moments, maybe?
After that, a few days later, we had it all figured out, well, as
Yeah.
much as we possibly could. And we hope you guys do go because we loved Japan so much. Now, for all of you guys that have stuck around this far in the video, you might remember at the very first of the video, we said we're going to tell you where we're going next. And now is the time to do that.
I know, we've been in Asia for 5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months?
Wow, so I
That's
can't believe
crazy.
we're actually leaving Asia. We're heading to a different country that we haven't been to in a very long time, oddly enough.
Not a new country, but we are going to, you guys ready? The United States, baby.
But we're going to Hawaii.
More specifically, Hawaii, which is
Yes,
very
so exciting.
exciting. A lot of people that watch us have been asking for a very long time, when are we going to check out Hawaii?
Yeah, and a lot of people I think have questions about Hawaii and want to know, like, is it worth it? So we're going to go scope it out and we'll let you know.
Honestly, like I do. I want to know if it feels very different than mainland America. We've
Yeah.
been to the mainland many, many times. Does it feel like its own thing, kind of like its own country, dare I call it? It'd
So
be really
we wish
cool.
we could go for a long period of time like we typically like to do and go to all the different islands, but it's just too expensive. So we're
Yeah.
going to be going to Oahu. We're going to be flying directly there from Japan and spending about 5 days staying in Honolulu.
Yeah, we can't wait to take you guys around there. It's going to be so much fun. We're pumped. You can probably tell. Now, if you got this far in the video and you're wondering who we are, it's Trevor and Anna, Delightful Travelers. Hit the subscribe button. Heck, leave us a comment. Hit the like button. Share the video if you want to. It all just helps us out if you're not new. We just appreciate that each and every single one of you come back every week to support us and watch your videos. Honestly means the world to us, and we can't thank our community enough.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it.
From Japan, wishing you delightful travels.
See you soon.